Okay, give us just a second here. We seem to have a little bit of a technical difficulty with the video. So we will get that straightened out. Please hang in there. Okay, try your video again.
No dice for Chris Bonner.
Same for Donna Miller.
Same for me.
Same for me.
Just us tonight, Lou.
All right, let me see if I can get Doug assistance here.
I'm here. I'm setting up the, each one of them I have to do individually for some reason.
I put on a clean shirt and everything.
We can clap for you as you enter if you'd like.
That's right. I was going to say no video is my best look, so I'm thrilled.
Okay, so you're aware, as we're trying to get this straightened out here,
Right now,
already broadcasting live. So
I'm
Doug,
in.
behind the scenes, getting everybody's video up.
Thank you, Doug, very much.
Donna Miller's up, and I have two of our best looking board members, so we'll be able to start this meeting.
Michael.
Important everybody made it over here. Nice shirt, Josh.
It's time, Donna.
Thank you, Lou.
Yep, Jan's in.
All right.
That's a quorum. So for those at home that are tuning in for our riveting July board meeting, thank you very much for being in attendance. We just have a little bit of technical difficulties here with the video. So as soon as we get the video on for the rest of the board, we will go ahead and start our meeting. We also have some wonderful presentations happening tonight, and the individuals should be in the waiting room. I saw them checking in. So Doug, when you make sure all our videos are up, just make sure that they have video access and also the ability to share their screen for the presentations.
all video should be enabled for everyone. They just have to try turning it on.
Okay, up there's Vanessa Primack. And where am I missing? Let's see, I saw Peggy in here before. So at this point I have Chris is on, good. Donna's on, Jan is on, Michael Cologne is on, right? Where there he goes. Vanessa Primack, Josh. So who am I missing? Just Peggy, and I see Peggy here. Peggy, are you able to get your video on and your microphone on?
There she
There
is.
you go. And I see all of the individuals that need to be in the waiting room on deck are there.
Excellent.
So whenever you're ready, Madam President, I will begin.
Lou, you may begin.
Okay. In accordance with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Local Operational Guidance, COVID-19 guidance for remote public meetings in New Jersey, we are here tonight for our July 9th regular remote board meeting. Call to order and flag salute. If we can please stand and do the flag salute I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Okey doke. So I'm going to take the roll. President Miller,
Here.
Vice President Bonner,
Here.
Mr. Cho,
Here.
Mr. Cologne,
Here.
Ms. Primack, Mr.
Here.
Weinrich,
Here,
and Dr. Wong. Okay, everybody's present and accounted for, Madam President. It is your meeting.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to start, of course, with some presentations. I think, Rob, your student safety presentation is first. Am I correct? You set and ready?
That sounds perfect. We're going to
All right,
invite Laura
wonderful.
Kaplan in, and she is going to begin by sharing her screen.
Okay, let me just upgrade her. Okay, Laura, welcome to the meeting. You're gonna have to put your video on. There you
Hello.
go. And you should be able to share your screen whenever you're ready to get started.
It says I'm disabled. Oh, no, I got it now. We're good.
Perfect. So thank you all, and thank you, Madam President. We will begin with our student safety data system presentation from January 1st through June 30th. If we would go to that first slide, you'll notice on the first slide, you can see comparisons of infraction data for 2017-18, 2018-19, and 2019-20 in various categories. So looking at this data, I'll just highlight a couple of notes, beginning with the obvious that we were not in school for the final 3 months of the 19-20 school year. Therefore, the numbers do not represent a full year of in-person schooling. It's always important when you look at these numbers to remember that a single incident could result in multiple data points on this chart. So as a loose example, not based on our data, a threat could easily result in a fight. So you could have multiple data points out of one incident. There's a nice encouraging point on this in that substance abuse was at a 0 as of mid-March. So whereas this could have happened in the spring, it would not likely have reached the 8 confirmed uses as in years past. So if Laura, you could take us to the next. Okay, this next slide is just a continuation of the first. It just has some more categories. You'll notice that in 2017-18 isn't represented on this slide, and this is because these categories were added to the reporting system after the 2017-18 school year. A few points to highlight from here. On a positive note, similar to substance abuse on the previous slide, we had 0 instances of inappropriate physical contact as of March, and would predict that we wouldn't reach 8 instances in the final 3 months. And we can also happily report on a positive trajectory in racial derogatory incidents, as well as instances of insubordination, with inappropriate behavior being an area that we will explore further. So with that, that is my portion, and I would turn the presentation over to our Director of School Counseling, Laura.
So in addition to what Rob reports out annually, we're also required to report out the total number of HIB, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases that are both investigated and affirmed during this reporting period, which started January 1st and concluded on June 30th. In our obligations to report out, we indicate the number of cases and confirmed cases, and those that are confirmed, the types of remediation that was implemented. We're also required to report any trainings and programs that we've put in place directly related to combating and educating ourselves on harassment, intimidation, and bullying in the schools. So this chart indicates cases over the last 3 years, similar to how Mr. Gardella reported. And as you can see in the 1920 school year during the second reporting period, again, this is likely reflective of the fact that we were not in session the last 3 months of school. There were 0 cases at the primary center, at Brayton, and at Franklin. I'm going to come back to Jefferson in a second. There was 1 case investigated at Lincoln Hubbard that was unfounded, And there were 3 cases at Juan C. Johnson Summit Middle School, and all 3 were founded. With Jefferson, there was 1 case that was investigated. However, it is being affirmed at this evening's meeting. So that's why there's an asterisk next to it, because it has not yet been affirmed, and therefore the outcome has not been confirmed. So that will be affirmed tonight and then will be updated as a data point. When we break down the different cases, what you can see in the columns are the incident date. So that is the date that the actual incident took place. However, that's not necessarily reflective of when that was reported to us. So sometimes an incident is reported that same day when it happens. Other times it may be reported to us after a weekend, or sometimes even several weeks or months later. The Board of Ed date affirmed. So all cases are reviewed at one board meeting and then affirmed at the second. So these are the dates that these were all affirmed, with July again indicating that the one from Jefferson will be affirmed tonight. The school and the status indicate that all cases are closed, and then confirmed means whether or not it was found to be in violation of HIB. So the 3 middle school cases were found to be in violation of HIB. I think it's really important to note, and I know I do this at every time I report this out twice a year, but it's important to highlight that just because a case is not confirmed does not mean that remediation did not take place, discipline was not imposed. It's just that for the purposes of this presentation, we're only required to report it out when they are confirmed. So as you can see, for the 3 middle school cases, parent-guardian contact took place in every one. That may be by phone call or in a parent meeting. Student counseling, and then some also included some type of discipline, detention, detention, a referral for discipline, and other support services which might exist both within or beyond the school. Trainings and programs that took place. Each building has its own school climate and culture team, which meets several times throughout the year. Several members, anti-bullying specialists and myself, will attend Legal One updates, which provide us case studies and any updates to the law. And then something that many of us participated in when we went remote were a lot of webinar trainings, maybe not specifically related to HIB, but really educating ourselves on the needs of our students and how to navigate kind of this uncharted territory of virtual learning. In addition to pivoting on the way that we were training, we also pivoted several of our programs, most specifically our advisory program, which is at the middle school, and our Thrive program at the elementary school. Thrive stands for think, have empathy, respect differences, identify feelings, value yourself, and emanate kindness. And that is our anti-bullying and social emotional learning curriculum throughout K through 5 at the elementary school. We really kind of had to take a pivot and adapt those lessons to still be facilitated in a virtual setting. And we also modified some of the themes that we had in place to deal more directly with what our students were dealing with in the moment. I'm happy to report that both our middle school and high school, who pursued becoming named No Place for Hate schools through the ADL, both reached that status at the end of this year and were recognized as such. And that required participating in several activities, up to 3 throughout the school year, that met the criteria to demonstrate our commitment to educating ourselves and our community about diversity and tolerance. Different assemblies took place prior to the closure, as well as classroom lessons. And again, I mentioned those school climate team meetings. And that's it in regards to what we're reporting out for the second reporting period. Again, it was a little bit different than in the past, given the circumstances. But if you have any questions, I'm absolutely happy to answer them.
I have one question. It's not a question, it's just a clarification, because I know we always get it, Laura.
Yep.
Rob mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that we were going to be looking at inappropriate behavior because we had seen a couple of incidents of that. Could you describe for anyone who's viewing what that might entail? What is inappropriate behavior? What might it be? I guess
Sure. So that may fall outside the lines of being an HIB report, and that might be something that more a building administrator, an assistant principal, or a principal would determine that a conduct violation fulfilled that criteria. I don't know a specific example that I could offer you, but it would fall outside the lines of an assault. So it could be something that's disruptive to the classroom setting, that's disruptive to a common space, a cafeteria, a lunchroom, a recess, that's maybe not necessarily insubordination. So it's not a confrontation with an authority figure. It's not an assault or an altercation physically with another student, but it's some type of behavior that's risen to the need for it to be categorized in this way for this reporting purpose.
Thanks.
That's
That's great. That's helpful.
Okay.
But for some reason that phrase gets
It's broad.
it gets parents just asking. So thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying.
And again, it doesn't mean that these numbers also don't capture
Mhm.
every incident that takes place throughout the district in any given building. And also something that I know we've highlighted in the past when we've done these presentations is that there has to be a perpetrator or someone who committed the act. So if there is a vandalism, for example, but we don't know who did it, we can't report that out because there's not a confirmed offender.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Laura, for Rob? All right, then hearing none, thank you so much for your
Thank you, Laura.
Thank
twice
you.
yearly report, Laura. We appreciate it. And
we'll
thank
see
you,
you
Rob,
next time.
for your support too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And with that, we're gonna switch. Uh-oh.
I'm going to bring Jennifer up. And Jen should be joining us. Here she is. And Jen, if you could put
Uh-oh.
the video
Can you
on.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
There's Jen.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I think Donna, you might have froze. Okay. So I think Donna's going to restart. Here you go, Donna. Back.
Hi.
There you go.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, it froze. But
Okay.
we brought Jen up.
Thank you. Jen, welcome. You're going to give us our goals report.
I am going, you can see me and hear me, right?
Correct.
Okay, because it says the host is asking you to share your video. So I just wanted to make sure you could see me. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Can you all see
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So every school year, the district proposes and the board approves district goals. And our goals in September, we had 3 that we outlined, and we gave a mid-year review, not sort of mid-year, but we provided the community and the board with an update in March. Since then, we have completed some additional tasks that were related to our goals. So our first goal was all students in grades 2 through 8 and grade 9 in Algebra 1 would master targeted math ELA skills as outlined by their individual learning plans from the IXL Continuous Diagnostic Assessment. IXL is an online tool that we have been utilizing for several years within the district for both math and language arts. With regard to the actual goal and the reporting out for the goal, it is not reflective of exactly the way in which the goal was intended. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is because we went remote. So we started the school year off with the thought of this diagnostic assessment, providing students with an individualized learning plan, and they would work on those particular skills. But when we needed to go remote, IXL was a tool that the district really needed to rely on and utilize for skills practice within mathematics and language arts in all grade levels. So as a result of that, when I could pull the reports and run the data, I could not decipher from the data which skills were mastered during the time of their diagnostic assessment protocol and what skills were being mastered at the time of the utilization during our remote learning plan. So as a result,
Jen, hang on one second. Is it possible for you to make your screen a little bigger?
yeah, sorry. Oh, and I didn't do from present. Sorry.
That's okay. because you got some good information here. And that way we can see it a lot better.
I apologize, everybody.
There you go.
I started talking without presenting it. So in order to share out the data and show the progress that we were able to make over the course of the school year, in each grade level, I was able to determine how many skills were mastered at the beginning of the school year, in March before we left for remote learning, and by June, how many skills were mastered at every grade level. As a result of not being able to tell you a percentage of students or that all students hit mastery on every skill because of the way in which we needed to utilize it, I was able to tell you on average the increase in number of skills from September to June. So that's what we were able to display and provide for you. We had, in many cases, as you can see, students mastering, and a mastery is 100% of 146 skills max in language arts. So we did a great job. We showed progress, but I can't say that we particularly met the goal the way in which it was intended because of the situation of going remote. In a similar fashion with math, again, we were able to give you the range of skills that were mastered in September, the range of skills that were mastered in March and June in each of the grade levels, and then on average, how many skills were increased by each student. Our second goal for the district was around interdisciplinary themes to enhance opportunities for experiential learning. We started this process by completing a curriculum audit, and at the elementary level, the first round committee discussions included our principals, our literacy coaches, and one of our instructional facilitators. At the high school level, the curriculum teams were established by grade level and content areas teachers, and they met monthly during their faculty meetings and department meetings to develop their plan. Once they were able to complete their curriculum audit, we then went to looking at and analyzing data and the New Jersey Student Learning Standards to see where we needed to implement different standards into our data. So the result from the data was the standardized test data analysis at all grade levels indicated that nonfiction reading and writing experiences was slightly below their fiction performance, and therefore it was determined that content area literacy should be a focus in our interdisciplinary units moving forward. So once we knew what we needed to focus on within our writing, we identified different structures for our unit design. The teams took different approaches and researched different models. And then from there, they created their revision plan. So each grade span has a different plan. At the elementary levels, we are working on those curriculum units this summer. At the middle school and high school level, they'll continue that work during their department meetings and faculty meetings moving forward in the next school year. Goal 3 was circulated around cultivating a love of learning through a collaborative district culture. And there were 3 separate initiatives involved in this particular goal. The first one was the social emotional learning with a focus on stress management and self-management. And Laura spoke about some of the things that were implemented in order to reach this goal. First and foremost, as everybody is probably aware, is we researched the benefits of a medical health clinician. And as a result of that, that was built into our budget moving forward for the next school year. We partnered with the Rutgers Behavioral Health Program, which has provided us different parent workshops and teacher workshops. Elementary parent training, as I just mentioned. We revised the Take a Stand curriculum to become the Thrive curriculum that Laura just mentioned in her presentation. And we also revised and implemented an advisory period at the high school, and the revision took place at the middle school. And Laura spoke about some of those revisions that took place. The second portion of this goal was strengthening the cultural inclusive learning at all grade levels. And again, this one started with a revision of the middle school and implementing a high school advisory period. The guidance counselors, school counseling department and a number of teachers over the summer last year really worked with the administrators in coming up with content and a structure for this particular program. As Laura mentioned as well, that we partnered with the ADL. They came and provided our teachers with a full day professional development, as well as us qualifying for their No Place for Hate activities that we implemented during the course of the year, and were able to get them in before we went remote. In addition to that, we completed some curriculum revisions. As I mentioned, we did the curriculum audit to identify different areas in which we can include different types of text, implement different novels at the middle school and high school level. And that work will continue as we move forward through the next school year. Experiential learning opportunities were more of community-based or school-based opportunities that were presented. We had one book, one school at the middle school where every child was able to read New Kid, and the author also did an author visit. We had Be the Change at the middle school as well, where Norma Bowe came and did an assembly to kick off the community service portion for the 8th grade. We had Art of Inspiration at the middle school as well, which was a Black History Month assembly. And we had Becoming the Beloved Community at the high school that kicked off the school year in September. The third portion of this goal was effectively adapting to changing pedagogical research and remaining current with the educational trends. And this one particularly started with an evaluation of our K-12 curriculum. As you're all aware, we have a 5-year curriculum cycle that we are required to meet with the state. So we are currently or continuously updating and rewriting curriculum every summer or even during the course of the school year. We have different courses that the middle school and high school supervisors and administrators propose to us, and we implement in order to stay current with different topics and interests of the students. We also have the summer committees, as I mentioned, that are updating everything. Our curriculum communications was something that our curriculum department implemented this school year, and it was a newsletter that would go out to staff and the community with updates and current trends that were happening at different levels and highlighting different things that we were doing in each of the grade levels. And we had a redesign of our administrative council. Typically, our administrative council meetings in the past were an opportunity for us to share ideas and have updates of what was happening in the district. But we took a chance this year and decided to redesign it by making it a spot where we could collaborate and learn from each other. And with that, we shared a survey with the administrators in late August of last school year. And had requested different topics that they were looking or had an interest in learning about. From there, they were broken out into groups, and some of the, or all of the topics that we discussed were, we had practices that included brain and mindset, cultural sensitivity, movement and extracurricular involvement, mental health and coping strategies, and passions. At the end of each of the presentations, the principals set goals for integrating the learned practices from the presentations to their school and or department. And they I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. In bringing it back to their schools, they had to experiment and see how things were implemented from the presentations, and we're taking their input in terms of what topics their staff have more interest in and continuing with that practice for the upcoming school year. And I believe that is it. Are there any questions?
I'll allow fellow board members to ask questions should they have them.
All right.
Okay, Madam President, we do have one question that came in via email from the public. And Jennifer, the question is from Melanie Wilson. She would like to know what's an example of new novels at the middle school and the high school?
So at the middle school, we were having conversations with Randy Wallach and with John Safferny like a couple weeks ago. We haven't made any final determinations on what we were going to add into the curriculum at the moment. But once we do, we will make sure that we put that out there. And the same is happening. Those conversations are happening at the high school level with Corey Walsh and his team as well.
So that leads me to a question that I have, and again, Jen, I'm more channeling parents that speak to me than myself. So we have, first of all, congratulations to everyone on working hard toward, goal satisfaction in a year that was unmentionably strange. You mentioned in terms of our interdisciplinary curriculum, which is something that I have a personal love for. You said we'll be looking at that, we'll be looking at curriculum creation throughout the summer and throughout next year. And the question that I'm already getting, Jen, is, well, next year, is it a year at all? Could you speak to how the parallel work that goes on despite the current remote or live situation that we'll be in? Can you assure people that work will still be getting done?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned, my assistant, Tanya Lopez, is currently working with the elementary literacy coaches and our instructional facilitator and a group of teachers. And that their main goal is the interdisciplinary units, and they are writing them this summer. The teachers will be handed those units come August 27th when they return. So I can promise you that work is in progress, and it will continue to be in progress as we move through the summer, and it is continuously revised and added to and extended. At the middle school and high school levels, because of the type of work that needs to be done, they created interdisciplinary units within their structure for their faculty meetings and for their department meetings. So instead of doing that work over the summer when there's other curricula that needs to take place, as the school year progresses and we are functioning, whether we are in person or whether we are remote, those meetings still continue. So that work will still continue to happen regardless of in-person or virtual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For that assurance for our public. And by the way, nobody's chirping this evening, but not too long ago, we had a real groundswell in our community for becoming an ADL certified No Place for Hate school. And I think silence should be taken as congratulations on that. Well done. Okay, any other questions? Well then, dang, it's me, my president's report. And as always, I start by saying it is absolutely a great day to be a Hilltopper tonight for many reasons. And the first is this: they said it could not be done, but it has been done. I am thrilled to announce the board selection of Mr. Scott Huff as our district's next superintendent of schools, and our intention this evening to approve his contract. And while I know that this news has already been shared and spread to every corner of our community, allow me, on behalf of the board, to formally say a bit more and to introduce you to Summit's new educational leader. This may, by the way, be, out of the whole 12 months, my favorite president's comments thus far.
So I'm bringing him up as a panelist, and he can take his video on. There we go.
All right. So Scott, I'm going to say some kind words about you first. Now, in my various communications over the past 6 months, I've highlighted the process that led to this evening's exciting news. And I just for the sake of assuring again our community, I want to just quickly go through that again. We had the establishment of a search planning committee, the hiring of a search firm, HYA, to support our efforts. We had an all community survey. We conducted focus groups, interviews. We did had a lot of conversations that led to our leadership profile. From there, we had over 50 applications, 26 screening interviews, multiple rounds of interviews with very accomplished educators, and numerous full board discussions, lots of full board discussions. And this litany of activities represents just the basic milestones of our process. There was tremendous work that went on in between each of those milestones, and that work was well worth it because it led to this selection. I admit that I can't comprehensively boil down 26 years of educational experience into a single clump of moments. And it's absolutely impossible to crunch a man's work and life into a few sentences. But Scott, here I go. I'm going to try anyway. Scott has enthusiasm for, experience with, and proven success in teaching and supporting the achievement of a wide variety of students and diverse learners. Just a sample, he has taught classes in a regional school setting. He has worked in a school devoted to special education. He has supported services for ELL students. He's demonstrated that he cares about teachers and staff and understands the connection between professional development and how our kids learn in the classroom. He's very community focused. He's straightforward and clear in his communication. He likes sports, therefore I like him. He likes sports enough to have coached 2 of them, football and baseball. He supports the arts. I'm not sure he knows that I've heard he has a daughter who is a dancer. He understands district administration. He's participated in school safety initiatives, has been a partner in the development of social and emotional health and wellness initiatives. And in his conversations with us, he demonstrated the ability to look calmly and practically into our very uncertain future with organized thought and flexible planning. Beyond all of that, we fully believe he's going to look very sharp and dapper in a Hilltopper sweatshirt. He's a great guy, even on Zoom. And we're so glad that he's able to join us here this evening. And it is my great pleasure to introduce to our community the next Summit Public School Superintendent, Mr. Scott Huff. And Scott, I turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Miller. Good evening. And I got to say, I'd like to start by thanking the members of the Board of Education and the cabinet members as well for their kind support and welcoming over the last several weeks. It's really been a wonderful experience. And I have to say that throughout the entire experience, it's been very clear to me the passion and dedication that this board and the Summit community has for the education and wellness of the children. Coming from outside of a district, Summit Public Schools' reputation for excellence precedes itself. And I am truly honored to lead this school community that has such a rich tradition with academic and curricular successes, that celebrates diversity, and that has a first-class team of professional educators. As you mentioned, I look forward to bringing my 26 years of experience in education to this community to continue to work towards the pursuit of excellence for every child, and perhaps even reach higher and higher heights, even under these uncertain circumstances. So with that, I look forward to meeting with the various stakeholders in the weeks to come. And once again, thank you for the warm welcome.
Well, welcome, Scott, and congratulations. Round of applause, everybody. Unmute yourselves. Unmute yourselves. It's a wonderful day for you, I hope, and for us. We so look forward to supporting your transition to the district. It would be a transition under normal circumstances. It's a bit steeper, perhaps, or stranger in our current circumstances. We look forward to helping you acclimate. The board and I look forward to partnering with you. And as a community, we certainly look forward to your leadership in the coming years. And as Scott already mentioned, we will absolutely ensure that there are opportunities for all of you to go beyond the virtual meet and greet and to meet Mr. Huff in person. And we'll be back to you with those plans.
Thank you.
Okay, so Madam President, if you want
Yes.
to take the resolution, we have under personnel on page 11, item R, approval to appoint Scott Huff as superintendent of schools.
All right, let's do that now. Is everybody unmuted? Because I don't want to delay in any of this. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So on the motion, I have Mr. Weinrich moving it, and Mr. Cho seconded it. And I'm just going to call the roll. Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
Mr. Cho,
Yes.
let's see, Mr. Cologne,
Yes.
Vice President Bonner,
Yes.
Ms. Primack,
Yes.
Ms. Wong, Dr. Wong? She's thinking about it, yes. And President Miller.
I'll give one for Peggy and one for me. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, congratulations, Scott. Now you're official.
Oh, you
Thank you
can't get rid of
very
us now,
much.
Scott. Thank you. Thank you
Thank all
so
of you.
much. We very much look forward to it. And Scott, you are absolutely welcome to stay or you know, whatever your evening allows. You are a hilltopper as of right this very moment. So you're allowed to do whatever you your
Yes,
evening
the
may
invitation.
allow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I have two more governance items to go through. The first is our process and planning for the assumed reopening of our schools this fall. And I'm going to leave the bulk of the updates to our acting superintendent, Mr. Gardella, since it's the role of our district professionals to drive that process, conduct scenario exercises for the multiple imagined futures, and to take action based on their vast public school administrative and teaching experience. But I would like to touch on just one of the board's roles, which is to set expectations for the future at this time. In that capacity, the board has shared two high-level principles. The first is we've asked the district to maximize learning, and the second is maximize safety. I don't think either of those expectations should come as a surprise. They did not come as a surprise to our district. We've asked the district to find a sweet spot, the range of space where those two important factors intersect, and plan from there. And we're pleased with the work that has been done this far. It is at this point in framework, but we like the framework that has been established and the emerging outline of plans thus far. I want to be clear that the board supports the 5 days a week curriculum as the optimal environment for our students' learning and overall well-being. We appreciate the formats that are being explored that allow for live learning as well as remote learning for those families that need it or want it. We also support the strong attention being paid to multiple and layered protocols that will keep students, teachers, and staff, as well as our community, as healthy and safe as possible. And we appreciate and support the attention to principles such as equity, social and emotional well-being, and transparency that guide all of the work and the decisions. The board will continue to oversee the formulation of plans, and I underscore that. We oversee the formulation of plans. We leave planning to our professionals. They are the ones who understand what it means to educate our children at all times, and especially at these times. We, for our part, we take our oversight in this matter seriously because we represent the community. We are not you, but we are aware of all of you. And I say this because the board has received a number of emails asking that we remember who you are out there and what your needs are. And I want to assure you that, again, we're not you, but we are aware of all of you. We know that your families who can't wait to get back to normal, your families with health issues that make you anxious about live learning, your families just starting your educational journey in our primary centers, your family starting to look at colleges, your families with special education needs, your families who want to see a return to sports. You want to see plays being done. You want to see the full breadth of our co-curriculars. Maybe you're new to our country or speak English as a second language. We know you're all working very, very hard. You either have a job, maybe you're out of a job, maybe you're looking for a job. Perhaps you have 3 jobs. I think you get my point. We are aware of you. We appreciate your continued reminder to us of who you are, but I want to promise you that we're aware of you and we are committed to bringing that diversity to the planning to the best of our board abilities. So in that capacity, we'll continue to partner with the district and as appropriate with the groups, organizations, and officials necessary to get the most robust opening plan we can, one that maximizes learning and maximizes safety, right in that sweet spot that I was talking about. So our schools need to imagine a realistic but dramatically different future for buildings and classrooms in a very short span of time. And as a board, our intent is to, pardon me, support the identification of plans that will be best for Summit. Secondarily, and finally, I'd like to give voice again to the important topic of social injustice. The board has also received a number of emails on this topic, and I want to assure you that social justice, equity, inclusion, diversity, curriculum tweaks, these are all still top of mind. I don't want anyone to believe that because we have no grand announcement this evening, that Summit Public Schools and the Board of Education doesn't care, or that it's reneging on its promise to do real work in this space. We are, and we will. The simple and real truth is that as a district, we're on a tight timeline to deliver a plan to the state and the community that outlines how we will get our students learning. And that's taking a lot of focus at this moment. And we thank you for understanding that as we get through that work and do, as Jen McCann just stated, do other work in parallel. That is my president's report for this month. I turn things over to our current district's leader, Acting Superintendent, Mr. Gardella. Take it away, Rob, all yours.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to begin by welcoming Scott Huff. On behalf of Cabinet, Scott, we welcome you. We're so excited to have you join us and join the team and to add your thinking and experience and leadership to our educational community. Welcome, Scott. We look forward to working with you and working together to bring the very best to Summit Public Schools in the future.
Thank you.
And to the board, I really would like to publicly compliment you, for leading us through a complete and thorough superintendent search at one of the most uncertain times in our country's history. I don't know that everyone truly understands the magnitude and gravity of that accomplishment. It's so impressive to stay on timeline, let alone be ahead of timeline, and most importantly, find an outstanding leader for our district. So kudos to all of you.
Yes.
And thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob.
So I'll piggyback on Donna's remarks. I know that reopening is at the forefront, so I will start there. I want to thank all the staff and all the community members for your prompt responses. I put out communications earlier in the week regarding our reopening planning structure and our process. Districts around the state have been responding to the DOE's guidance from June 26. My letters laid out the framework of our planning, and tonight I'd like to summarize our thinking informing our directions. So the guidance that we received from the DOE was robust, and it left room for interpretation on exactly how we would need to reopen. There were three things that were very clear. We will reopen in some capacity. Number two, face coverings will be required, for all, with exceptions for medical and other conditions. And lastly, that we will need to provide a remote option, which we've already committed to, enhancing by ways of rigor and touch points with teachers and consistency. And I think the community will be pleased with the improvements that we make. Distancing, as an example, was not as clear. The district seemed to be able to apply distancing as practicable or as feasible. A few examples outside of the classroom that you can see in the guidance include a level of acceptance that students are permitted to ride buses to and from school, and athletics, which are not likely to take place at a distance. So in conversations with area superintendents, with liaisons to the Department of Ed, with local health officials, requirements have remained vague, and open to interpretation, leaving it up to individual districts as to how they're going to approach their planning. So we are educators, and our default is always to do what we believe is in the best interest of our students with a whole child approach, academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally. School is essential for students' well-being. We know that there are countless benefits to kids being in school, and we agree that there are other serious risks at play in this decision because besides those that are related to COVID-19. The American Academy of Pediatrics laid that out for us in their guidance. So as a result, we formed our goal and our goal is to maximize gains while mitigating risks to the best of our ability. We created our guiding principles, which include balancing the importance of learning, socialization, the full picture of physical, mental, social, emotional health of all stakeholders, accessibility, and frequent and transparent communication. And we determined our direction, which is to pursue a program that offers everyone who wants to be back in person the opportunity to come to school 5 days a week, with a remote option for those who may require or prefer that for any reason. So another model that's largely being discussed locally is an A-B model. We too have discussed it, and I've received some parent inquiries about this. For those that are unfamiliar, this would involve smaller groupings of students attending in person on a rotational basis. An example being half of the in-person students attending on an A day and the other half on a B day. This obviously does reduce the number of students in person at one time, but it does leave questions about how much this model actually reduces risk of transmission. Mainly because the students that are not in school on an off day, they're somewhere. This is not April when we were all required to be home. They could be in a daycare of some sort, at a library, at a Starbucks. They could be out with friends or just out in the community somewhere, and the very next day, they could be returning to school. So I've heard arguments from some health officials that the safest place for all students is actually in school, where they have those controls in place. Even at half capacity or 1/3 capacity, the reality is that kids are going to interact. Kids will remove their masks at times. Kids will act impulsively at times. There will be moments where teachers will teach from closer than 6 feet. Teachers will go home and they'll interact with their families. Parents will return to work and or their daily lives, and they'll be out in the community as well. My point being that exposure will happen, and we feel that it's best to put forth our best efforts to allow our students to form those critical relationships with their teachers and with their peers. So all of this has led us to pursue 5 days a week for all who would like an in-person education with a remote option that I'm confident will satisfy the community. We've heard you. We believe that our approach captures the spirit of this community and that it's our duty to provide the best education and learning opportunities that we can for our students. So as of today, we have not been told that our plans would be unacceptable by local health or the county office. We will remain flexible in the event that we're either told that we need to adjust or if we feel we need to pivot to a model that requires lower daily populations. But this work is upon us and it's in front of us. And I'm going to remain in contact with all necessary updates. I want to give some special thanks just regarding this planning process, both for the work that's already done and about to happen, the community, just for ongoing support and passion and just an unmatched dedication and care. I see it in every email that I receive, and I know that the board does as well. I want to say thank you to the board for being steadfast and decisive, again, in the most uncertain of times. Our cabinet, you're so thorough, you're so complete in thinking, and you're seeing every angle, and you're leading us to a really sound approach in all facets. And especially to the 160 Summit staff members who volunteered their time this summer to help serve on restart committees. You're awesome. Thank you. Moving on from that topic, I have a couple of other updates. First, graduation. We had 2 fantastic celebrations of the graduating seniors that took place earlier today. The ceremonies were facilitated respectfully and tactfully. And we as a community should be really proud, to have pulled together to have made this happen. Our seniors showed gratitude and compassion and resilience, and they showed that Hilltopper pride. So compliments and congratulations to our seniors and to their families. And thank you to the amazing efforts of the parents and of course, Stacy Grimaldi and the SHS team. They worked tirelessly to make these events special, and so many of them volunteered to step up today to coordinate the events. And in addition, we had staff from other buildings and departments also there, present and helping out. So it truly was an amazing effort and a result. So thank you, Stacy. That was no small feat. And we all recognize the energy and passion that you gave, and it was well worth it. Our middle school is planning a graduation move-up ceremony for our 8th graders on July 16th, following the SHS model that took place successfully today. Dr. Gallo and her team, her administrative team, they were at the SHS graduation today. They were taking notes. They're hard at work, looking to offer a similar opportunity for our 8th graders who are moving up to high school in the fall. And my last update is around athletics. Due to our partnership and our collaboration with our SEA, our teachers union, and the incredible and thorough work of our athletic director, Dan Healy, we are prepared to start fall athletics as early as Monday, July 13. We're fully in compliance with the NJSIAA, who is a branch of the Department of Ed, and we're really looking forward to getting our Hilltopper athletes out there. So thank you very much. And with that, I turn back to you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Rob. That last one was a good one, but some of your comments lead me to just add a little addendum to my comments. I said that as a board, we are aware of the diverse families that we have out there and that we represent those families and that we remember them. And now would be a great time for me to say, we also as a board are very aware of the administrators, the supervisors, the teachers, the staff, everybody who is working so hard to make seemingly really easy things, which are not so easy, happen. Whether it's graduation, whether it's figuring out how to get kids into a school, out of a school, on a bus, off a bus, each of these small, seemingly small decisions, each of these seemingly, well, why can't we just do it, tasks, it takes monumental effort. And I believe our community sees that effort, but I want you to know that the board sees the effort and we truly appreciate the hard work that is going on. And, let's keep up the good fight. We're going to do it. With that, we can get on to some other parts of the meeting. We need approval of HIBs, correct? Am I in the right spot?
Yes.
Yes, I am. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second? Excellent.
Okay, I had Peggy moving. Who seconded it? Okay, Mike. Okay, on the roll. Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cologne?
Yes.
Mr. Cho?
Yes.
Vice President Bonner?
Yes.
Mr. Weinrich?
Yes.
Ms. Primack?
Yes.
And President Miller.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Committee reports, Education Committee, Miss Dr. Wong.
Thank you very much. We met on July 2nd. We talked for 100 minutes. In attendance was Acting Superintendent Rob Gardella, Jen McCann, Tanya Lopez, Chris Bonner, Vanessa Primack, and me. I'm not going to go on that long. The committee spent the bulk of the time, not surprisingly, discussing the newly issued New Jersey Department of Education and the American Academy of Pediatric Guidelines on the return to school in the fall of 2020. Donna has described it very well in her president's comments, and Rob has also addressed it in his superintendent's comments as well as his very nicely written letter. The other thing we talked about was the district goals, which were nicely presented by Jen McCann, so there's no need to describe further. And the last thing we talked a little bit about was the psycho courses at the middle school. Just in terms of, most of them were well received by the students, and we will plan to continue to offer those. No recommendations, and our next meeting is planned in August 6th. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Does anybody have anything to add from committee? Does anyone have any questions? All right, and thank you, Education Committee, for meeting in August, which typically doesn't happen, but I believe it's a good idea. Thank you very much for doing that. Operations, Mr. Cologne.
Yes. And so we met on Tuesday, June 30th for a little under 2 hours, 110 minutes. In attendance, Lou Pepe, Kathy Sarno, Rob Gardella, and from the administration, and from the board, myself, Jan Cho, and Chris Bonner. A few topics that we covered. The first was our insurance program. And so we reviewed the insurance umbrella and policies for the district, and confirmed the appropriateness of the coverage for the district. Just as background, we source our coverage from a consortium, the Joint Diploma Fund, And we found that to be the appropriate manner for us to do so. And so, again, the board received a very comprehensive review from John Moore at Willis regarding our insurance program, and are very comfortable with the scope of the coverage, as well as the retainer levels and overall policies. The second topic was transportation contract, and Lou, you may have an update for me on this. This may already be done in terms of the economic terms for the contracts during the spring for the underutilization of transportation that we experienced due to the remote learning circumstance. Is there an update there, Lou?
The update is we've settled most of the consortium agreements we have, other than the big one we're still working on, and that is Union County Ed Services.
Okay. And so we're extremely comfortable with the approach that the administration is taking, led by Lou, to ensure that the ultimate result here is a fair one with respect to the terms of the settlement. We also confirmed our commitment to the Aetna EAP program, which is an emotional support program for our staff. And so that was rather straightforward in our unanimous confirmation of support for that program, and continuing to promote that program within our district and our staff. We made a revision to our payment program for the NJSIAA officials, and happy to hear that there will be officiating taking place with respect to sports programs. And so we're using actually a very well named system, Zebra Pay, which is a digital payment program for officials moving away from an old arbiter pay system, which was check writing. So that's a positive outcome there. Construction, we provide these updates on a monthly basis. We have a few things going on with the Summit High School roof. That is on track, and I walked past the high school today. It actually looked like it was done. So it's either on track or it's finished, one of the two. And also retrofit work for the lighting, the upgrades to efficient lighting in the buildings is on track as well. We also discussed, as you might imagine, as was presented earlier, the models for educating our students in the fall. And for this committee, the main subject was ensuring that operations was well synced up with the work streams. And so Acting Superintendent Gardella mentioned earlier the restart committees that are in place. And so there are, I believe, 9 restart committees. I may be off by one. Operations is one of those committees. And so that will ensure that the work that is required with respect to PPE, distancing, and any of the work that the facilities would need to ensure a safe environment for our students is being worked on through the summer. And so we're obviously pleased with that approach. No formal recommendations for board approval from the committee. Our next meeting is officially scheduled for September 2nd at 4 p.m. However, we expect that we will be meeting at least once prior to the start of the school year, given the circumstances that have been discussed earlier in the meeting. And that would be all.
Thank you, Michael. Anything else from the committee? Questions for the committee? Thank you also, Ops, for I just a blanket thank you to everybody. Thank you. Just thank you. I can't say thank you enough. Keep meeting. Let's get it done. Policy. Mr. Bonner, all you.
Everybody gets a thank you.
As is right at this time.
So bear with me here. Rob dumped a lot of policies on us at the meeting. And so we were overwhelmed by words and statutes. And so I'm going to try to be as brief as I can and summarize as much as I can. And the reason why I'll be a little bit brief is because all of our policies are mandatory. So we don't have a lot of debate and discussion about them. So I will give you the highlights. So We met on Wednesday, July 1st for an hour. In attendance were Acting Superintendent Gardella, myself, Vanessa Primack, Jan Cho, and Kathleen Murphy. We discussed several mandated policy changes that are be up for first reading tonight. And then the policy regarding the school calendar, policy 8210, is up for a second reading tonight. So let me go through these really quickly. So first one, 1649 has to do with Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So essentially, this act is an additional mandated policy that amends the Federal Medical and Family Leave Act to permit an employee who is unable to work or telework due to a need to care for their son or daughter under 18 years of age, if their school or place of care has been closed or the child care provider of the son or daughter is unavailable due to a public health emergency, to be able to use federal medical family leave. So that's the first one. So we will put that up for first reading tonight. The second one has to do with emergency paid sick leave. Relatively similar, but let me read through the summary for everyone. So Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act requires the employer to provide paid sick time to the extent the employee is unable to work or telework due to the employee being subject to a government-ordered quarantine, advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, and is seeking a medical diagnosis, caring for an individual who has been ordered to quarantine or has been advised to quarantine, or caring for their son or daughter if the school or child care provider has been closed. So essentially, both of those policies are mandatory. There is a little overlap between them. The bottom line is that both acts give employees the flexibility to use available earned time to care for themselves or a family member during this crisis. Next, we talk about policy 2431.3, which has to do with heat participation and the student athlete safety. So the new statute requires school districts to adopt and implement the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association, commonly known as SJSIAA, heat participation policy for student athletes. So our existing policy in the district made our compliance with that policy optional. So this mandated policy simply says that we have to make it mandatory. And so essentially what this does is that it requires all sports activities to conduct essentially a heat analysis or a wet bulb analysis to make sure that we are within guidelines with regards to the health and safety of student athletes. Next, we had policy 2622, student assessment. This policy is really a slight change of the language and who is defined as a group of students that are being assessed. So a code revision has taken place, and the amended code now went from continued administration of mathematics and English language arts in grades 3, 4, and 5, and of science in grade 4, to continued administration of mathematics and English language arts in grades 3, 4, 5, and of science in grade 5. Moving on to policy and regulation 5111. This is the eligibility of resident and non-resident students to participate in academic services in the district. So a statute was revised, which now indicates a school may not condition student enrollment on the fact of New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission, that if they do not have the student's name, address, or on file. So essentially what this means is that if a student does not have an address or is not or the family is not registered at the Motor Vehicle Commission, that we cannot deny entry to our schools. Also, in this same context of policy 5111 and regulation 5111, we discussed J1 and F1 student visas. Specifically with regards to J1 visas, the policy will be amended to show or say a school district may, but is not required to permit admittance of a J1 visa student in accordance with federal regulations. Our district historically and in our policy has not allowed students that are on an F1 visa to enroll in the district. So the committee is not recommending a J1 visa exception for those students. And so essentially, to summarize that, is that the district will not allow students to enroll in our district that possess a J1 or F1 visa. We're still going. I got a couple more. Hang with me here. The next one is about suspension and suspension of procedures. A new statute requires the principal to convene a meeting between a student and appropriate school personnel after a student has experienced multiple suspensions or may be subject to a proposed expulsion from public school to identify any of the student's behavior or health difficulties as soon as practicable. The new statute also allows the principal to hold this meeting if it is the first time a student is suspended, if the principal deems such a meeting as appropriate. This does not interfere with the immediate removal of a student for a violation of the Zero Tolerance for Guns Act, an assault upon a school employee or board member with or without a weapon. A meeting is required by law and shall take place after the student is removed from the school's regular education program. Policy 5610 regarding expulsion is the exact same language that I just read to you. So essentially, we will be mandated to change the language in our suspension policy and our expulsion policy. And last, but certainly not least, policy and regulation 8320 that have to do with personnel records requires us as a board to make certain employee records and information available for public access pursuant to New Jersey law and the Open Public Records Act. So, in summary, the committee recommends we move policy 8210, which has to do with the school calendar and when the school calendar is due to be published tonight. And then we are recommending that we move all other policies that are reviewed here tonight for first reading. Our next meeting will be August 5th at 10 a.m. as we also find that we will probably have a need to meet due to some updated COVID-19 policies.
Thank you,
That was
Chris.
a lot.
That was a lot. And I saw Vanessa was like, she could barely contain herself. She was so excited by the policies. I know that's your thing, girlfriend. Any questions from the group?
I would also just say that since it was a lot, if any public member or members of the media that are reporting on this tonight would like a copy of it, I'd be happy to supply it at a later time.
Thank you. No other questions?
I would only add that as far as the suspension and expulsion policies having to do with the meetings to try to examine underlying behavior, those are things that are fairly standard in our district already. So this is not a big shift for how our administrators deal with those issues and trying to help students.
Thank you, Vanessa. Anything else? All right, negotiations. I don't have anything for negotiations, do I? No, I don't. Liaison reports. Has anyone liaised? I have only liaised a little bit with our PTO President's Council. And I just wanted to let the board know that the PTO presidents have been a wonderful resource for us, a great support of us, particularly in helping us get word out on our plans, our survey, et cetera. They continue to be a great help. So, hey, Bonner, we thank them too. But I've been in contact with them a great deal, as has Rob, and they've been very helpful to us. And finally, for the very last time, I know you're all upset about this, the Superintendent Search Planning Committee. That's me also, but this is the last hurrah. So we created this at first ad hoc committee and then made it a temporary standing committee in order to create, a a group that would guide the process. And I just, for our last hurrah, want to say that Chris Bonner and Vanessa Primack did a wonderful job. We could not really be where we are today with Mr. Huff, or throughout the entire process without these two individuals doing a lot of work. Chris kind of doing that operational thing that he does, Vanessa doing the labor law thing that he does. I got you, Josh. And I'd like to thank the board for all the hard work that they put into it. I'd like to finally say, before I go back and get the communications committee, sorry, Josh. Josh is texting me. He's like, you forgot me. Sorry about that. Is to say the search planning committee was there to guide a process. And we were able to do that because we knew that we were kind of running well everywhere else. And that's because we had Rob Gardella watching our backs and watching things. And we had a great cabinet doing a lot of really hard work while we were doing a certain important portion of that search. So Rob, you're still not off the hook yet. Scott will be starting in mid-August, so you still have some work to do, and we're pleased with the work you've done so far, and cabinet, keep everything going well as well. This, as of next meeting, we will no longer have a search planning committee, therefore there will not be any updates. And with that, I hand it to Josh and communications with my apologies.
No, Donna, I appreciate, and the communications committee appreciates that little test, because we are committed to communicating whether we are called upon. When we are not called upon, we will endeavor to communicate. The communications committee met remotely on Wednesday, June 24th at 9 a.m. for 30 minutes. In attendance were Laureen Callender, Doug Orr, Michael Colon, Donna Miller, Rob Gardella, and Josh Weinrich. We discussed input and feedback regarding graduation ceremonies, along with the survey results from graduating seniors and their families regarding attendance for the scheduled in-person graduation ceremony on July 9th, today, and the follow-up with final plans to the community. We discussed superintendent updates, and Scott, you are the embodiment of those communication plans, and thank you for being here. And we were very focused on making sure that we included all stakeholders as that process evolved. The committee discussed the communications between cabinet members and designated leaders of committees involved in the reopening plan. And that, of course, includes administrators and staff members from different grade levels. As we discussed strategies for multiple reopening scenarios in the fall, which you've also heard about tonight. We determined to send out updates on those efforts to the community while incorporating the most recent guidance from the state. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, July 29th at 9 a.m. We will communicate on the findings of that meeting at an appropriate time, and there are no recommendations for the board.
Thank you, Josh, and Communications Committee. All right, with that, I didn't forget any other committee, did I? I was just so excited to have my last search planning committee update that I jumped the shark. All right, so we are now on to a public comment. Mr. Pepe, you can read your words, and then we'll go into public comment on the agenda.
You're muted, Lou.
Lou, you're mute.
Okay, there we
Your
go.
lips are moving, but I hear nothing.
All right. So I said, since we are meeting via Zoom, I'm going to dispense with some of the rules that we normally have for a regular in-person meeting. We do have one public comment that I did receive that I will read aloud to you and the board. And the person that sent this is Rebecca Yeager. And Rebecca's comment is, I received and looked over the survey that was sent out. Can you please confirm that these are the only questions that will be asked? I did respond with my answer being no. As of now, based on the questions and the lack of guidance given. Her example is school grade. Do you plan on sending your child? Will there be an option for a hybrid schedule offered, which I think was already answered tonight? What are the number of students on a class? I understand that this is being figured out, but other towns have provided more detailed questions on their surveys. I also agree that my child should be in school with his peers and teachers, and I am sure most of the community share the same concerns, safety and health. When she was talking about detailed questions, she goes on to say, such as in September, questions would be like, I am willing to send my child to school every day with safety measures in place. I am willing to send my child back to school on an alternate schedule of live and virtual learning. I am not willing to send my child to school and would like instruction to remain virtual. I will not be sending my child back to school. When schools reopen, which schedule would you most prefer for your child? And examples that she provided were full day in person on an alternating schedule, 2 to 3 days per week, with the other days virtual, or half day in person every day, half day in person alternating schedule, 2 to 3 days per week, with the other days virtual, and finally alternate weeks in person and virtual. I look forward to your response. And again, I think both you and Rob Gardella answered a lot of the questions, but that's what I have.
Thank you, Lou, and thank you for the question. Rob, this really is in your wheelhouse, so I'll let you add anything that you want to. But I will say, in terms of the survey, what I have said a few times to members of the public, which is our survey is intended to provide the district with the piece of information that they need now. And the piece of information that they need now is how many children are we going to have in our classrooms. The district does not currently need, knowledge about whether you want hybrid or live or, or only remote, because the district has made a decision to maximize learning with a 5-day-a-week plan. So those questions aren't relevant to us at this point. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Rob, for any further explanation.
Yeah, happy to add. We're pretty focused in our approach here. We didn't take an approach in response to guidance by offering options. Rather we set some goals and we set some guiding principles in place in order to achieve the goal. Rather than working towards options and providing e-menu, we looking at the best overall in-person model for our kids. Balancing out educational benefits with all of the areas of health and well-being that could potentially be impacted by a return to school. So to echo Donna, our survey was intended to collect preliminary information on enrollment, and that helps us to shape many of the details that some parents are seeking. So there is I fully recognize that there is sort of a circular dynamic happening here where, we need some information in order to be able to give information. And there are, some parents who are looking for more information in order to make that decision. So I fully recognize that. It's certainly an imperfect time, but we're very confident in our approach. So I hope that adds some extra color and clarity to that answer.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, Madam President, I do have another question that came in. And this is from Melanie Wilson, and it's a follow-up question for the policy report. And the question is, so how do students prove residency?
Typically, they would prove residency with proof of address, but that's typically how they would do it. Now, if somebody moves into district, they might show us some closing documents. They may show us utility bills. They may show us proof of address through the DMB, but we can no longer use that for the category of student. I believe it was visa, J1 visa.
J1. Mm-hmm. Anything else, Lou? Thank you, Rob.
I do not believe so. That's it.
Okay. With public comment, complete, we can get on with the remainder of our agenda, starting with item 9, approval of minutes. We had regular meeting and executive session minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Where's Josh? I'll second.
Who's going to second without Josh?
Yeah, have a
My
second?
gosh.
And just a reminder, as we're into the action portion of the meeting, it's a good idea if you guys all unmute yourself. And that way we can, not lose any time or hearing anybody. Okay, so on the motion, Vice President Bonner.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cho.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cologne.
Yes.
Ms. Primack.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Weinrich.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Okay, and President Miller.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, we're A through HH, correct? Yeah. I believe so. I've got just a couple call outs here. One, item B, senior class picnic. Let's please cross our fingers that our senior class can have a picnic. I would really like that. And I'd like to highlight item D, the Gottesman Family Foundation. There has not in the past 3 years that I've been on the board, there haven't been very many agendas where we have not approved a donation from the Gottesman Family Foundation. It's been almost a decade that they have been funding early childhood and college scholarships for immigrant children or children of immigrants. They do a parenting institute. They give scholarships for college. They support ESL. And I haven't recently heard them getting a shout out. So when we approve that, let's remember that we've got a great friend in that foundation. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we do have 2 items on addendum. The 2 items on addendum, item II and item JJ, are both approval of
Yes.
sole source provider technology that we
Thank you.
utilize in the district.
Okay, so then thank you, Lou. I need motion for A through JJ.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Oh,
Second.
Second.
Okay,
Josh is
so-
back.
Okay, so the motion goes to Mr. Weinrich, second to Dr. Wong. Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
okay, Ms. Primack,
Yes.
okay, thought you froze. And-
Oh, just not cooperation with the mute button.
All right, Mr. Cologne
Yes.
and Mr. Cho,
Yes.
and where are we? Vice President Bonner
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes.
Moving on to
Thank you.
personnel.
Okay. We had A through R. We already dispensed beautifully with R. We do have a new superintendent who will start in mid-August. That's wonderful. Do I hear a motion on personnel?
Okay, Madam President, again.
Did I miss another one?
No, we just been working fast and furious. So addendum under
Yeah.
personnel, there's some addition under C. We've added C8 and C9. Item D added 7 and 8. We have
Okay.
also letters N, S, T, U. And as of about 5 minutes before the meeting started, we added item 2 under U to accept an additional retirement. Ruth Gombis, special education teacher at Brayton Elementary School, effective September 1, 2020.
Okay. All right, thank you. Wait, I'm reading through those. Hold on.
Okay, so it'll be
Okay.
through item U.
You. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Josh Weinrich got the
Gotta get a
motion.
faster internet.
And Vice President Bonner, he got to the buzzer first. Okay, on the roll. Mr. Weinrich,
I'm just here to amuse you, Lou. Yes.
you're doing a good job, sir. Vice President Bonner,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Chow,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Cologne,
Yes.
Ms. Primack,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes.
Motion's carry.
Thank you. Policies, we have multiple first reads. We have second reads. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Okay. On the buzzer, Vice President Bonner.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
and Ms. Primack,
Yes.
Mr. Chow,
Yes.
and Mr. Cologne,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Did we add anything to finance while I wasn't looking? Are there bills that I don't know about that need to be paid?
The bills need to be paid, but we have no addendums.
Oh, that's wonderful. A through E. Let's pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
There we go.
Waiting.
I understand. Trying to be a team player.
I just want to point out that the chair of operations has not hit the buzzer. Okay, so
I'm having fun with Josh. Come on.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
okay, let's see, Mr. Cologne,
Yes.
Mr. Chow,
Yes.
Vice President Bonner,
Yes.
Ms. Primack,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
Now we can pay the bills. Thank
Now
you.
we can pay the bills. That's great. And poor Superintendent Huff is going to be like, what have I gotten myself into? Who are these people and how do they run their meetings? It's a circus. It's not. We're all very, very organized, but we do like to have fun and whistle while we work. All right, that's it. We do have need for a closed session. So I need a motion to get into that, correct?
Moved.
Yes, and before you take off here, hang on. All right, so I have a motion by Chris Bonner and seconded by who?
Michael.
Okay.
Or
Michael, there you go.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 So since we are live streaming this meeting, you are going to leave this meeting and go to the link that I sent you that I think some of you went to before this meeting. And that was the link for the executive session. And then
Okay.
we'll get into the executive session, finish that, and then we will be coming back to this link. Okay?
Okay,
All right.
we've
Thanks
got
for
it.
sticking around, Scott. See you in a month.
Thank you, Scott. Congratulations.
Bye.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Good luck with your plans for New Prov.
Thank you. We'll be talking soon.
Talk
Yes.
soon, Scott. Welcome.
Welcome.
Congrats, Scott.
All right.
Okay,
As soon as we have a quorum, call for,
that's
call
what I was gonna say. So at this point, we are coming back.
Boom, we got one.
So I need somebody to move for the adjournment.
So move for adjournment.
second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm here.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm good. Adjournment.
The meeting is over.
Bye.
Everybody have a nice night.
Peace
Good
out.
night.
Bye,
Night,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.